Greetings, fellow gatherers and growers and hunters and fishermen and fisherwomen. Today is Sunday and it is a drippy cold day here in Florida. So a great day to be out on the patio and work on, cleaning things up, getting new things started, getting old things trimmed back, doing a little harvesting. I also spent some time in the garage getting the camping equipment done from the last camping trip. I haven't put a video out on that, but Dozer and I did a return visit to the Everglades and took on those Oscars and Mayans again, and we won. So we brought home quite the collection of fish. So enough fish to last us quite a while. And so today's focus is really on the patio garden. Now this is just a few weeks after Hurricane Ian, so Hurricane Ian wiped out the patio garden. The only thing that was really left was in bad shape. It was dying. So everything had to pretty much be cut back to nothing. I had to reseed a lot of things. Some of it I just left to see what would come back. And the Luffa came back. It actually came back really strong. And truthfully, everything came back once I cut it down. So there's still a couple things that are looking a little beat up, but overall, you wouldn't even know that it had been, again, a few weeks ago, it had been wiped out. So the harvest today was chaya. I harvested almost a full gallon bag of chaya. And this was harvested from my front patio. The large leaves were harvested. I actually have a chaya that I planted, kind of stuck in the ground back in the woods. When I cut the original chaya down to fit in the pot, I had some leftovers. So I just stuck it in the ground and it took off. And it lays down. It actually didn't grow up. It didn't root well. But you can see it produces huge leaves. And the other one is in the front patio garden, or the front patio pots. And I do have a small chaya up here. I haven't harvested from it. I'll probably pull a few leaves off it today just to thin it back. You can really harvest chaya maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks for sure. I've noticed here, especially in pots, it gets a little stressed. So if you don't harvest it frequently, it'll get mites on it. So today what I did is I cut it down to just a few leaves, trimmed off some of the areas where it's growing in too thick, got rid of anything with a white spot on it, and then kept all the good leaves. And that'll allow it to grow back nice and healthy. It'll be a lot happier from there. So what I want to do today is just check in with you and give you a quick tour of the patio garden, the lanai garden, I guess. This is more of a lanai. It's a small space. I don't know what it is, maybe 8 by 8 or something, but it's not very big. And it has very limited sunshine. That's one of the issues I've had with it is it doesn't get any sun until probably 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then that sun is pretty limited. So I need something that'll grow in shade, that doesn't need that 8 hours of direct sunlight, and that can be very challenging to find. So I grow a lot of leafy greens. I grow, again, chaya, katuk. I actually do grow moringa, which prefers a lot of sunshine. However, in a bush form or a small plant form, it does very well out here. It won't produce occasionally a flower, but very rarely. It definitely does not produce any seed pods. So again, I'm using it just for the leaves, which I use in teas and stir fries, scrambled eggs, anything like that. I use it in a lot of medicinal teas. And I do have a new addition to the patio garden that I'm super excited about that I'll show you here in just a minute. So why don't I spin the camera around and I'll give you a quick tour of what we got growing out here on the lanai. Alright, first thing I got growing is a big lump. Right, bud? Big lump. Hey, Dozer. Thump thump. There's the thump thump. Thump thump the tail. Oh, he's not gonna today. He likes to hang out with Dad. Alright guys, so this is the newest addition to my patio garden. I am super excited about this. I just recently discovered this plant and am absolutely in love with it. This is Mexican mint, or Cuban oregano it's called. This is an unbelievable plant. Look at how big and thick the leaves are. And so this is a succulent actually. It doesn't require much water. It doesn't actually like water on its leaves. I grew this just a few weeks ago with a few starters. I've actually got probably 7 starters going in the garage, and you can see how it is filled in and it's taken off. And I'm harvesting on this. You can see here it's got a long area with no leaves. I'm harvesting this for teas and for cooking. It tastes like oregano. It has a very strong smell of oregano. It's very overpowering, so you don't need a lot of it. If I make a pot of tea, which is a couple cups, that's equivalent, I mean, that's one leaf, really. And same with, you know, scrambled eggs or something like that. I'm really using 1-2 leaves at the maximum. And as a succulent, you can literally just pull off a leaf and use it as a starter, or you can trim here at the knuckle and then, you know, cut the leaves back and plant that, and it starts super, super easy. So I am really excited about that. I use it as seasoning. I use it as a medicinal tea. It's got a lot of great nutrients and health benefits and smells wonderful. So that's my new addition. Super excited. Back behind it, I have the magical mystery plant. I have no idea what that is. And then it looks like I've got some herbs growing back there that came up from seed. That I actually had a little pot up on the starter table, and I forgot what I put in there. So I think it might be roselle, but I'm not positive. I'm not sure what exactly it is. So this was a gift from my neighbor. He's kind of a scavenger down at the dump, and he got this strawberry planter, and I have turned it into a herb garden. So you can see here, I've got Greek oregano, and it is loving this container. It is just, and I harvested that this morning actually for some breakfast burritos. And then here we've got English thyme, which seems to also be doing very well. I have Mexican tarragon. That one does not seem to be very happy in that potter. I think it maybe needs more sun, but everything else is doing well. And then of course sweet basil up top, which has been harvested a couple times. What I'm doing is I'm trimming the top and I'm fattening it out so it fills that that top a little bit more. So of course everyone's got to have your token aloe vera, right? But I'm really happy with this potter, and it's doing very well. So I think I made, if the tarragon does die off, what I'll do is I'll replace it with another, probably oregano. I really enjoy the oregano. It's something I've never used before, and I've just started exploring it, and I really like adding it to different foods. These katuk were completely gone. You can see they're shorter than they were. They were completely wiped out by the hurricane. And again, the hurricane didn't hit the patio directly. What it did is it just, 60-mile-an-hour winds for 2 days, 3 days, it just beat them to death. But it has come back wonderfully. It has filled out. I actually really like the height of it right now. The young one in back has come back really nicely. That was probably half that height before, and you can actually see, if you look close, it is starting to flower. Now the katuk flowers, that's about all you get out of them. I apologize if, oops, sorry, got a little blurry there. They don't have like a real flower. They just get these real little things on them underneath the leaves, and then those will turn into the seed pods, and the seed pods are edible, and I think they taste like snow peas. I think they're wonderful. We've got another sweet basil down here that's going. I actually have a room for a couple more here. I think I'm going to put some more kale in here because it's the cool season now, and you can see this is a new kale, and he's very, very happy. These are the moringas. These are the original moringas. You can see he's still probably 8 feet tall. And I've cut him back several times, but this one was again gone from the hurricane, completely wiped out, has come back nicely, and I am harvesting from him. And then I've got my, I'm sorry guys, I've got my my Cuban pineapple. This one just hangs off the backside, but you can see that it's forming a little pineapple on top. Now that is not an edible pineapple, that's actually its seed pod, but it's the coolest plant. It produces this one single pineapple that hangs off that. I just think it's really neat. So it's one of my token, I don't know, gimmick plants. Down here I've got more oregano, and this thing is huge. I've got to trim it back. This is actually a Chinese spinach, and this one was a starter that really wasn't doing anything, and it seems to have taken off here recently. This is all tomato. These guys are doing wonderfully. This is Everglades tomato. Now they had died off. I had some beautiful Everglade tomatoes formed up, and the hurricane killed them, just beat them to death. But they have come back with a vengeance, and they're filling this pot. So you can see that's probably about, oh, I don't know, 4.5 feet tall, I suppose. And then I've got like a little kind of a fence thing behind them that's fastened together. And this next pot here, I've got a variety. There's some lettuce growing in here. There's a couple tomatoes that are coming up. There's Malabar spinach. You can see the Malabar spinach has went up those rails, those trellises, and you can see they're beginning to flower. And that's been my problem, as you know, if you've checked in on these videos before, is when they flower, they make a seed pod, and that's about the end of their growth. So I'm going to let a few of them go. They bring in the the bees and stuff, and that's really important, because every morning if you come out here, there's probably a half a dozen flowers or so from the Luffa. And you can see here there's a Luffa growing. There's actually, that Luffa is getting close to harvest size, but he's growing up that trellis. You can see he's kind of wound himself over here. He's got a couple big leaves over here. He's fighting with this plant over here, which is another new addition. You can't really see him, so I'm going to show you the top. This is a long bean, and this one is one of a group of, I think it's Kentucky long bean, that I've been trying to get to grow. They'll grow like this, but they'll never, they to date have never produced any beans, and they typically die off. So I'm going to try to get this one to produce beans. Now he's fighting with Malabar spinach and Luffa. He's got a battle to wage. You can even see here, if I shine over, you can see I got Malabar spinach and that bean hanging down. They're all fighting for space in there, so I'm going to have to wind them up along the railing. This is another one of the original Moringas. He's doing very well. He's just starting to turn yellow on his bottom leaves, so I'll probably trim those and use them for tea. This is that big rosemary. I thought I lost it. Definitely in the hurricane I thought I lost it, but it seems to be fighting for life. So it's come back, and it's got some new growth on it, and I've been harvesting off of it, so it's still producing some herb for me, and I really like that. These are also spinach. And I can't think of the name of these right now, but this is a form of spinach. It's a perennial. And you can see there's a Luffa growing behind it, and there's actually a Luffa growing, so that'll be harvestable here in a few days. There's Malabar spinach growing here. And you can see that Luffa actually comes up out of this back pot, and I've got maybe some room for some kale here. But this spinach was gone from the hurricane just to a nub, and it's come back nicely. This pot here was just, if you remember, this was one garlic chive and some basil. I've got a tomato that's coming up in there. That's another Everglades. This is different types of lettuce and spinach. You can see that that's filling in very nicely. And I split that the garlic chives, I split that into 3 plants, and that seems to have made it very happy. I've harvested that several times. I've given it a haircut right down to a few inches tall, and it comes right back. And there's the original Chinese spinach. He's coming back nicely. You can see the leaves are curled on this one, so he's very stressed. I'm going to trim him back down, and I think he'll come back nicely. He took a real whooping during the hurricane. That one did as well, but he seems to be happier. I think he's getting a little more light right there. And then that's the upstairs chaya. He's very small, but he's producing. He was down to a nub. There was no leaves left, but he's filled back in, and he's about ready to get harvested, I think. I might even take a few off him today, just to thin the leaves down. You can see the leaves are a little beat up. We had another windstorm from the next hurricane. Not as bad, but you can see they get beat up. So I'll trim it back down. He'll fill right back in within a few days. And then this was my Luffa pot. I had a ton of Luffas in here, really too many. It was overcrowded. I'm going to back up. You can see this. And that one actually goes all the way up to the ceiling. And so about 4 Luffas came back. I mean, they were just beaten right into the dirt. And I thought, wow, they're all gone. But I thought, I'm going to leave it for a few days and just see what comes back. And these 4 came back beautifully. So every morning you can see the old flowers from this morning. There's 1. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 1 that'll be open in the morning. That one will probably be open up in the morning. But you can see here, there's 1 Luffa. There's one ready to be harvested back there. Ah, if I can get to it. Right there, he's ready to be harvested. And then there's another one here, so that's 3. And then I thought there was one more somewhere. Maybe there's just, oh, there's another one back there that's just coming on. So that's 4, and then of course all those flowers will turn into Luffa as well, and there are flowers all over this thing. So that's awesome. He is, and actually I see another Luffa coming down below. So I've got about 5 or 6 Luffas right now that are coming up and are doing really well. So that's awesome. And again, I use those in stir fries. So when I say Luffa, for those of you that don't know, when you think of like the sponge you buy in the store for bathing and stuff, that's a Luffa, right? Luffa sponge. This is the Luffa plant. So if you let that grow, and they'll get real big sometimes. They don't get as big in the pot, but if you're growing that in the ground, that would get real large, and then that'll dry up and turn into those Luffa sponges. And I have taken a couple and made the sponge out of them, and I've actually even used the sponge as like a face wash. Now, at this size, these are the eating size. So up to about 3 inches, it's like think of like a cucumber replacement. And so you can slice that up and you can stir fry it, add it to salads. I thought about maybe trying to pickle them, cut them in half and pickle them. The skin's thicker than a cucumber, but again, I like them. I use them in stir fries all the time. A super easy stir fry. I come out here, I take, maybe I'll take some Malabar spinach, I'll take some Moringa, I'll take maybe a little bit of katuk, and then I'll take one or two of those Luffas and make stir fry that up. Maybe use some of the Cuban oregano, some of the different herbs, and then I add some rice to that. It makes a super easy, very nice dish. I'm going to back up so you can see this lanai again. So I'm actually in the house now. So there's the front railing, and you can see kind of the size. It's not real big. There's dozer, got to be close. But you can see it goes up maybe 4 feet, and again, fighting for space right now. I'll have to do a little thinning probably. Probably the Malabar spinach is what I'll thin, because I use that a lot less because it's super strong flavored. But I'll thin that out because I want those beans to grow and I want those tomatoes to grow. So, and that's the patio garden. It's really awesome to be able to produce this kind of food on the patio, on the lanai, really. Again, this is a small space. You're certainly not going to feed a family on this long term. I'll tell you what, it's a really great supplement. I get some excellent herbal teas out of this. Matter of fact, just recently my daughter was having stomach issues and I was fighting bugs, so we made up some tea with Moringa and Cuban oregano and some mullein that I had harvested in Minnesota from our family farm. And I make stir fries out of this. I make when we use tacos, we can come out here and pick lettuce or kale. The Malabar spinach I use in different dishes. So we're using these products, intermixing them with other foods that we're eating, and it's wonderful. And at night, this whole thing has got lights around it. So at night you can light that up, light a couple of candles, put a little music on, and you're sitting in a garden. It's very relaxing. It's very, very calming. And I think so there's more to this than producing food. It's great to do that. It's awesome to be able to eat this. This is all organic. I don't use any fertilizers in there. The fertilizers I use are ones that I create. So maybe I make a liquid compost in the kitchen and I put banana peels in there and some different fruit and stuff for a couple days, let it mildly ferment, maybe put a little sugar in there to kind of help it along. And then I use that, intermix that into the water that I put on them. But that's it. That's all that goes on here. The potting soil is organic, so there's no chemicals, no pesticides, and make some wonderful teas, some wonderful dishes. So I really enjoy that aspect of it. It's also learning. It's learning different plants, which ones work good in these shady spaces, which ones don't, because I've certainly had quite a few that don't. I get a lot of seeds, so downstairs I've got probably 7 or 8 chia starters. I'm starting up some different, I've got more Luffa ready to go, I've got more seeds, Actually, somewhere up there is an actual loofah that I dried out. When I'm ready, I'll open up that pod and I'll use that to reseed the loofah so new ones will grow. And that's a wonderful aspect of it. But also the calming, just to sit out here and be surrounded completely by these plants. You'll get lizards up here, you know, that make it their home, which is kind of fun, and they help eat the bugs, so I'm okay with that. You know, the issues you got to deal with, ants, because you've got dirt up here, so that's kind of an ongoing battle. You know, so I try not to use any poisons or anything like that. I try to make it uncomfortable for them. Try to, like, I've got one small pot right now that seems to have some ants in it, so I actually put a container underneath it, and I'm going to overwater it. It's a plant that can handle having its feet wet, so I'm going to overwater that, and that ought to make it uncomfortable for the ants and get them out of there. So that's kind of a fight that you do, you know, if you don't like bees. When everything's flowered up, that'll definitely bring in the pollinators, and I want that. I want them in here helping to pollinate things. But if you don't like bees, you know, that's something. My wife often, she'll go running back into the house real quick till it's safe. So anyway, I just think it's wonderful, a peaceful way to enjoy your lanai, to produce some healthy food for yourself and your family, some herbal teas, some seasonings. So I really encourage it. And I've kind of gave you a rundown of some of the plants I have, so certainly if you have any questions, send me a note. I've had a lot that didn't work. You know, I tried cucumbers. Yeah, that didn't work at all. What else did I try? I've tried regular tomatoes. Yeah. No, the Everglades are nice. They're an understory plant. They grow wild here, and they're tough to kill. They're a weed. I mean, so but we harvested off our last plant a ton of little Everglade tomatoes, and they are so delicious. So if you plant them in your yard, the problem is they get out of control. If you plant them in a pot, they're regulated, and you can use the tomato. This is all planted from the tomatoes themselves. So I let some of them fall into the pot, bury them down a little bit, and you can see it's growing up. So there's some things I've had success with there. The chaya, the katuk, the moringa. Now that's something that a lot of people are surprised that I can grow on the patio, and I've done it from seed and I've done it from a start, and I've had good results with both. Better with really with the starts. But I've done intensive moringa where I grow a ton of it in a small pot, and then I harvest maybe 2 or 3 times the leaves, and then I pull them and I harvest the root ball to make a seasoning, and which is excellent. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to message me. But that's all I had, guys. I just wanted to show you the patio garden, show you what's going on, and show you my harvest for the day. So hopefully the next time I see you, we're all out doing something wild.